So here I have a problem which I would say on a scale of 1 to 5 is probably close to a level 4, level 5. It's a tough problem. It's a tough problem, but there's definitely ways to get around this problem. And one thing, I'm going to repeat this again, I've been repeating this whole section, is if there's variables in the question, variables in the answer, you can always resort to making up numbers. So over here, there's x's in the question. It's saying which of the following, the answer choice of which of the following is equivalent to this expression. So let's see, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make up number for x. Let's make x to be 2. So if I make x 2, what happens is the 2, I replace x with a 2, so that 2 plus 4 becomes 6, which is what I have here. The 2 plus 7 becomes the 9, which is what I have here. So it becomes 1 divided by 1 6 plus 1 9. So now this is a more doable problem compared to what this original expression looked like. So now if I have 1 6 plus 1 9, I need to understand how to compute 1 6 plus 1 9. Keep one thing in mind. On this particular type of problem, or problems such as these on the SAT, they're not going to give you a calculator. So you need to be comfortable in simple operations such as adding fractions. So in order to add fractions, I need to get a common denominator. So my common denominator here is going to be, so I'm going to rewrite this 1 6 plus 1 9. My common denominator is just a number that goes into 6 and a number that will go into 9. 6, 12 doesn't go into 9, but 18. So now if I think about 18, 18 goes into 6, and 18 goes into 9. And I know that 6 times 3 is 18, and 9 times 3 is 18. So what I'm going to have is, let's start writing this down. So 6 times 3 is 18, and 9 times 2. So what I do to the denominator, I have to do the same to the top. And I have to do the same to the top here. So I have 1 times 3, which is 3. Plus 1 times 2, which is 2, and that gives me my final answer of 5 over 18. Now keep in mind, what I just solved for was just the denominator right there, so that gave me 5 over 18. So that's 5 over 18, so now I have 1 divided by 5 over 18. And if I divide fractions, again, this is something you want to understand how to do without a calculator, which is 1 divided by 5 over 18. And when I'm dividing fractions, I just multiply by the reciprocal. So it's just 1 times 18 over 5. Reciprocal is just this flipped over. So 1 times 18 over 5 will just be 18 over 5. So my final answer is 18 over 5. Now what I need to do is plug my 2 back into all my answer choices and see where I get 18 over 5. So let's go to answer choice A. Answer choice A, 2 squared will be 4. 11 times 2 will be 22. So let me rewrite this. So 4 plus 22 plus 28. 28 plus 22 is 50, so 50 plus 4 will be 54, and 2 times 2 is 4, 4 plus 11 is 15. And let's reduce this fraction. So I need to figure out a number that goes into 54 and 15, which will be 3. So 3 times 18 is 54, and 3 times 5 is 15. Look at that, 18 over 5, 18 over 5. A will be my answer, but I'm just still going to go through B, C, and D to make sure I don't get the same number somewhere else. So 2x plus 11, which is answer is B. If you look at the denominator, it's the same thing as that, so I know that's going to be 15. So for that reason, B is gone. And now if you look at C, C is just that flipped over. C's answer choice A flipped over. So that's just going to be 15 over 54. And that's not going to be. And look at what they do on the SAT. A and C are there on purpose. So if you forgot to do this final operation over here, which is 1 divided by 5 over 18, you'd get your answer to be C, which would obviously be wrong. So be careful of all these little steps. And if I go to D, D is the same thing as the numerator of A, which we know is just 54. And for that reason, D wouldn't work either, making my answer A. Level 4, level 5, tough problem. Variables in the question, variables in the answer, make up numbers. Now, I made x2. Just to give you a little recap, I made x2. I plugged the 2 in here. I got 1 6 plus 1 9. I did all my operations. My final answer came out to 18 over 5. Then I plugged my 2 into all my answer choices, and I figured out where I have 18 over 5, which is answer choice A. So there's another way of doing this problem. If you understand this, if you like the way I did this problem, great, move on to the next problem. But if not, stick around. I'm going to show you the more technical, or really the proper way of doing this problem. It is the proper way, but I wouldn't say it's the better way. So stick around. I'm going to erase all this stuff. I'm going to get a new slate, and then we'll do this problem again. So let's see. How can I get rid of all this? Alright, let's do it this way. So even though answer choices are all gone too, that's okay. So And there you go. Okay. Now, follow along with a simple example. 1 over 2 plus 1 over 5. How do I add something like this? First, I need to find a common denominator, just the way we talked about before. So my common denominator here is 10. And I get 10 by multiplying this by 5. And I multiply this by 10. So I multiply the 5 by that number, the 2 by that number. And I have to do the same to the top. So this would be 5. This would be 2. And my denominator, since I get 10 here and 10 over here, my common denominator is just 10, and that would final answer would give me 7 over 10. So there's a reason I'm giving you this simple example. Let's see how we can apply that same strategy to this particular example as well. So in the denominator, I have 1 over x plus 4 plus 1 over x plus 7. Now, I need to find a common denominator here, and think of how we found the common denominator over here. What we did was we multiplied the 2 by 5 and the 5 by 2, so that's exactly what I'll do here. I'll multiply the x by x plus 4 by the x plus 7. That means I have to do the same to the top. And over here I have to multiply this by x plus 4, and that means I'll do the same to the top. So my common denominator will just be this FOILed out. So this will be first, outer, inner, last. X squared plus 7x plus 4x plus 28. Keep in mind what foiling is just first, outer, inner, last. So my first is the x and the x, which is how I got x squared. Outer is x times 7, 7x. Inner is 4 times x, 4x. And last is 7 times 4, 28. So that's going to give me x squared plus 11x. I'm combining the 7x and the 4x plus 28. So that's my common denominator. And now let's check out the top. The top is going to be x plus 7 plus x plus 4. And just the way I add the numerator over here, I'll add the numerator over here. So x plus x is 2x, 7 plus 4 is 11, and 2x plus 11 in the denominator is just going to be the same, x squared plus 11x plus 28. Now, this right there is what the denominator is over here. And keep in mind, that denominator is divided by that denominator, so it's 1 divided by 2x plus 11 over x squared plus 11x plus 28. Now, if I'm dividing a fraction by 1, I'm just multiplying it by the reciprocal. So hence why my answer is x squared plus 11x plus 28 over 2x plus 11. And I don't have the answer choices up anymore, but that was answer choice A, which is what we had with plugging in numbers too. So just as a recap, there's two ways of doing this problem. One is plugging in numbers, which is what we did initially. And second is this more technical, the proper way of doing this problem. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the better way, but if you're more comfortable with the technical aspect of this, fine, go ahead, do it this way. I would personally do it by plugging in numbers.